Alright, well, today we're going to be building a Keiryu rod or a Tenkara leader using 20-pound Rio Dacron reel backing. And my one favorite thing you can never have too much of, Tippet. Always make sure you have excess amounts of Tippet, especially in the size that your rod is designed to be used for. I have a ton of 4X, and I also have some 2 and 3X for the upper sections on my leaders that I build. And how I look at building a leader for the rod is I always look at the length of the rod, and then I take 2/3 of that number. So 9-foot rod, that's 6 foot. If it's 12 foot, you just take 2/3 of every number. So if it's 12 foot, that would be 8 foot. And goes on up to whatever length your rod is. But just for this video's sake and everybody using shorter rods, let's go with 12 foot. So I need to make a leader, a mainline section that is at least 8 foot in length, and then step down my tippet down to the size of what my rod is designed for. So let me get my tape measure real quick. I forgot to set it over here in front of me while I'm getting prepared for all of this. I've got this sweet little tape measure. I normally don't use this. I normally just stretch my arms out and count it out as I'm out there in the field. So let's go ahead, and this is going to be for a 12-foot rod. So there's, oh, come on now. There's 2, 4, 6, 8, and on this other end, I take my fingers and I loop the line around them like this, and I make just a simple overhand knot that's a slip knot. Go through it 3 times to give that knot plenty of bulk, so that way it's not binding directly down on the line underneath it. And then remember the side, which side it was that you tied that knot on, and go around it at least once or twice more, basically making a double stacked overhand knot on that one side. And there you have the business end that you attach to your Lillian. It's the kind of important part, but not near as important as getting down here to the other end of this leader. So now that we have 8 foot of main line, we need to step down our leader. And normally I start out with a 0 or a 1X. It just depends upon which size you're going to end up with. If you want 3X, you want to start with a 0, but either way, you could start out with, if you have 1X or 2X, you can start out with either one of those. I always just suggest to do 18-inch sections around there of the tippet, because 18 and 18 is 36, and then that leaves you another 18. So if we're building a 12 foot off of an 8 foot, you need about 4 more foot to get to exactly 12. So you go 18 and 18, and then another 18, that puts you over that amount just a little bit. But that's all just in tippet that we're adding on. Getting really confusing into this. Well, anyways, the knot that I tie my leader onto here with, let's start with this 1X. Get about 18 inches there. The knot that I tie onto my main line to my tippet section here, I just use a plain old figure 8 knot. It's nothing too fancy, it's real simple. I'll get a thicker line here real quick and I'll show you what it looks like. Actually, I can probably show you just fine with this one. And how you tie the figure 8 is you loop it over your finger, come around from behind, and then you go back into the hole, just like that. Oh, no, I missed it. I love it when that happens. So around behind, and then back through the hole. Oh. If I can keep that loop out of it, it wouldn't look so bad. But that's the figure 8 right there. And to tie your other line onto this, you have to copy that same knot when you do a figure 8. So what you just tied forward, you tie this one the same direction. So you go back through, following that section that just came out of there, up over, back through again, back through there, alright, now we have got to that point where we need to spit on a little bit, that way we don't bind our knot. Go ahead and cut these ends off real quick. I kind of measured that out a little bit on there, but we'll measure it out this way though. So I'm going to cut this section about 19 inches just to give myself a little bit of tag to cut off of this 1x. Now we'll just step to 3x here. The reason why I step it down in sizes is because it helps transfer your power when you make your cast. If you have it all one size, it tends to lose the power, it dissipates through it. Or also the same thing, if you have a tippet ring in there, it can also cause a hinge in your cast, depending upon what kind of flies you're using and what kind of knots you have tied to those tippet rings. Knots are important when it comes to fishing because you want to make sure that whenever you're casting a fly, especially with the fly rod and the Tenkara and Keiryu rod, the way that it's designed, the transfer of power, you have to be able to make that loop, make that continuous power transfer to the end. This video is going to be a long one. I'm not even going to edit it. Just going to put it down. So, let's go with another figure 8 here. Just like so. You guys can't see this, but I can, because this tippet's really small. I guess I could be building it out of yarn so everybody could see it, but then it's not what it really is. It needs to be made out of this, not yarn. I really don't have too much larger diameter line laying around right now. Okay, so there we are at our 3x. And this rod that I will be using this on will be a 5x rod. So what I want to end up with will be 5x. So I'm just going to get over here to the 5x. You got to be careful which one you choose sometimes. Sometimes these lines aren't that good. Lower pound test ratings. Right here I have 2 different kinds of 5x, and there's over a pound of difference, I think, between the weight of what the line can take. Take a look at it here real quick and I'll show it to you. And the one that is a lighter pound test, I use it for doing microfishing. I just don't have enough tail there. Not spreading open and making it difficult for me to thread all those through there again. Oh, I was going to try to show you. But that's what the figure 8 looks like, and then you just cinch them down. Done. It's a real simple knot, works great. And normally I try to build my leaders whenever I have the rod, because it makes it easier to kind of gauge the length of how big it is, how long the leader is. So there's 3, 6, 9, 12. And then that one's done. Simple as that. Oh, we just lassoed a chair. Oh, and I tightened that knot. Well, either way, I'll fix that problem later. So that's the basics to kind of how you build a leader, probably the long way to do it. But I like to use this Dacron because it has no memory. Like, you can wad that up, do whatever you want to with it, and it doesn't maintain shape. It just is that. And it works wonderful for casting. One suggestion I would have for anybody that uses Dacron as a main line is to take some of your fly floating and apply it to at least the bottom 2 to 3 feet where you attach onto your tippet. And the reason why that is that'll help keep that end of the line on top, because Dacron is kind of like a neutral buoyancy where it's got weight to it. It will stay on the surface for a short amount of time, but once it gets waterlogged, it tends to sink. So you got to make sure that you're staying on top of your game with it. I also wanted to show you that too. You see there's a 5X 6-pound test, 5X 5.2 pound test, and these are both by Rio. And there's a difference between pound ratings, so freshwater. I guess this is freshwater too. Yeah. So I don't understand why there's a difference in pound test ratings between those two. But that's it. Got some art over here one of my subscribers made for me. Kind of nice. A little different hanging around there. Well, thank you guys for watching, liking, and subscribing, and sharing my videos if you do. We'll see if we can make some other little videos coming up about how to make some casting going on with the Tenkara, and also some other basics to just catching fish in general like normal. Well, thank you guys for watching.